accident.
Well, it is. Hello and welcome back to the Weekend Spread, the Schooner Pod's weekly college football pick'em podcast. And boys, it's a massive night in America, as we all know, given that the college football playoff rankings have been announced for the first time. So I want to ask, any surprises, Blake, in the CFP poll?
Yeah, the disrespect, I guess, of BYU in the Shield is something that's sticking out to me. I don't get the BYU slander, the BYU hate. Like, comparing them to the team that was ranked above them in Indiana, they have significantly better wins than Indiana. You can even go up to compare them to a Miami team, which I think probably BYU has the better wins. They've looked, I think, a little bit more impressive in their games. Miami has been, like, basically gritting it just at the skin of their teeth. It feels like early on in the season versus Louisville, I felt like they were struggling. Versus Cal, they needed an incredible comeback. Versus Virginia Tech, they needed a last second reversal. And BYU is just getting ranked 9th. Like, I know it will come out of the graphic and they'll only be one place behind them in the actual seeding because they're the Big 12 champion, but this is insane. This is insane that they are getting disrespected that bad. Honestly, they've looked just as good, if not better, than Miami. They've looked better than Indiana, and they're still undefeated. So I think they should be way higher up in these rankings, especially when you have teams above them. A Penn State team that hasn't beaten anybody this year, a Texas team that really in their only competition struggled, a Tennessee team which hasn't looked that polished. It's just really frustrating. You see all these teams ahead of them all have obvious flaws. And BYU, although can be a flawed team, still undefeated with a good win in the number 13 SMU, feels disrespect to put them at 9.
Yeah, I mean, especially on the road like that. I know nobody really was watching that game with the NFL on and all of that on a Friday night, but it really is ridiculous. I agree with that. Penn State feels too high. I know Indiana hasn't really played anyone, but they've been murdering teams in a way that Penn State hasn't. Ultimately, none of these polls really matter, but it is still kind of fun to talk about.
What about Iowa State? I feel like that's also kind of a weird one too. You know, I guess that kind of goes with the Big 12, but I feel like putting Boise State and SMU at 12 and 13 is almost kind of a lazy position because it's like, oh, those are going to be, the possible 12th seed in the CFP. But like Iowa State's lost one game and they've looked pretty good elsewise. And the game they lost is pretty close. They played quality opponents. So I think that's a little disrespectful too.
Yeah, I'd say so. And, I get that the loss, Iowa State, Texas Tech, not great, but it's
I mean, Texas Tech's still a competitive team.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. They're not a sack of garbage or anything. So I wouldn't say so, but okay. So let's move on to our standings here. Ty still in the lead at 45 and 49 after a 5-5 week. That can't be right.
Y'all were all 7-3, and I was 5-5.
Yeah, these aren't updated. I deleted the wrong freaking slide. 7-3 for me, Ty, and Boat Blake, and then Jameson was decent as well.
Finally, a good week for all.
It was great, green across the board. The sheet was very green. I feel like we've started to figure out these teams a little bit. But look, without further ado, let's just dive into this slate. We got a pretty decent one, honestly. And we're going to start with a game that, look, I've made no secret about my love for Indiana week after week, picking them on my wild card. So I felt like even though this isn't the best game, I'm going to throw everyone a bone here and put them on the main slate. It's the Michigan Wolverines, 5-4 overall, 2-7 against the spread. They're heading to Bloomington to take on the Indiana Hoosiers, who are a 9-0, 8-1 against the spread. Indiana favored by 14 here. You can find this one 2:30 p.m. Central on CBS. Ty, you're in the lead here, so you kick us off. Who do you like?
This one to me is a classic. Don't overthink it. This one to me is also a classic. I'm absolutely not going to watch this game. This just sounds miserable. But I think this is a don't overthink it. 14 points is a lot of points, but I think Indiana at home riding this wave that they're riding right now, it's, I think, a very meaningful game for them, right? In state, not in state, in conference opponent, and also the defending national champions. I think a lot of people forget that. So I think this is a ton of motivation here for Indiana to sort of get a statement win. I understand this is not the Michigan of old, but that's not really how a lot of people, like, the brand power has so much sway, especially in the playoff era with the eye test. It's almost like the original days of the BCS where you had that margin of victory thing. I think Indy has the motivation and they have the motive, I suppose, to get that 14. So I don't like it. I'd like it much closer to 10, but go ahead and give me Indiana minus 14.
Yep, I'm keeping it chalk here. There's no reason to go against this Indiana team. Bobby pointed out in the introduction very well. This Indiana team's just kind of been killing everybody they've gone against. Sure, the competition hasn't been great, but they've been killing. This Michigan team, I don't think, is even great competition. Like, if you look at the box scores from last week, honestly, they just are bad. This two quarterback system that they're trying to run with Orgy and Davis Warren, the ground game still isn't going with Donovan Edwards. It just feels like this Michigan team is absolutely dead, and Indiana has just been drumming these dead teams. They did it against Michigan State last week, even got down to Michigan State early and just came back, roared out, killed them. I think this one at home, they just have everything rolling right now. You see it in the against the spread record. Vegas just can't catch up with how good this team is compared to some of this mid to lower level of the Big Ten. So I'm just going to take the 14 points. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Indiana has just been, they've been killers. Kurt Cignetti, at the very start, going back to Big Ten media days, says that he's been picked second to last multiple times at several other stops, and each time they compete for the conference championship. And I don't know if Indiana will get that far. There's a lot to go there, and a pretty solid team in Scarlet and Gray you have to go play here in a couple weeks. But what Indiana and Sig have done is nothing short of amazing. I know the teams aren't great that they've played and beat, but they are slaughtering them. And I feel like this Michigan team is they haven't reached Oklahoma State levels of giving up, but they are not very good. Offense can't get anything rolling, and they can get scored on defense. So give me Indiana, Curtis Rourke and crew to roll big in Bloomington.
I don't think this is throwing a bone to us, Bobby. I just think this is a game I don't want to bet. I don't want to even just try to wrangle with Michigan in my head. I think Indiana's the pick at 14. Michigan, like you said, the momentum's against them. Their defense is not looking like what we thought they were going to be. Will Johnson's now out. You're starting to see the pieces fall even farther. I think this could tumble poorly. So give me Indiana by 17.
All right. That is a sweep for the Hoosiers. Let's move on into the rest of our slate, which is truly Big 12 and SEC back to back to back. Starting with a big one that between two teams that a lot of teams projected at the bottom of the barrel in the SEC, but have been pretty big surprises. You got the South Carolina Gamecocks, who are 5-3 overall, 6-2 against the spread, fresh off of a big upset win against Texas A&M. They're traveling to Nashville, take on the Vanderbilt Commodores, 6-3 overall, 7-2 against the spread. The bowl-bound Vanderbilt Commodores, I might add, but behind Diego Pavia and crew, pretty impressive stuff. South Carolina favored by 3.5 here on the road. You can find this one 3:15 p.m. Central on the SEC Network. Jameson, who do you like in the ball game?
I've been kind of not hating on Vandy the past couple weeks, but saying that maybe the hype's a little bit too much here. I think this is hyping them up a little too much in terms of the spread. I love South Carolina minus 3.5 here. I feel like big picture, looking at the South Carolina football team, biggest concern was, yes, we know their defense is going to go out and show out and going to give teams fits, but can their offense do enough to win them big time football games? Versus Texas A&M last week, Yes, I understand that their defense played really well, but man, I was really, really impressed with their offense put together. Lenore Sellers is starting to look like he's putting things together, not making as many of these stupid decisions as he was at the beginning of the season, and he's looking extremely athletic and becoming a very competent, good quarterback. You know, he was a guy that we may be like, oh, he's got some pieces if he puts it together. He's putting them together now, and combine that with Rocket Sanders. I think South Carolina can beat Vanderbilt by double digits here. I love this pick.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina has come on very strong. You talk about the two edge rushers as well on the defensive side of things. Rocket Sanders going off, and they've been excellent. They have been very, very good, particularly at home. Here's my thing, though. See, again, I've said it every time Vanderbilt's come up on this damn show, but I'm gonna keep saying it. I doubted Diego Pavia and the Commodores. Game one, faded them, massive mistake, and I'm not turning my back on him now. Last week was very impressive. South Carolina looked great, but I feel like their two strongest performances at like maybe not strongest performances, but as we've gone on recently, it's been fluky, weird Alabama game, a OU game, a win against Oklahoma that literally just gave it away to them at the start, and then super emotional, massive game at Williams-Brice. I feel like the Williams-Brice factor played a big. I mean, that was a massive deal last week. So I think, to me, I know Vanderbilt isn't exactly the world's toughest place in the world to play, but I think Vandy does enough to get this cover. So I'm gonna go Vandy plus 3.5. I'm not abandoning my Commodores now, but this is a tough call. So give me the home dog plus 3.5.
Can I just pause this podcast real quick? Did anyone else see that? Because Ty's laughing with his mute on right now because he knows I saw it. What the heck? I just saw Ty bring in Old Bay seasoning and just pour a hefty amount of whatever's in front of him. What are you putting Old Bay on right now that you're going to use in the middle of a podcast?
I'm having a little snack. I'm having a little snack.
What is the snack? Show the camera. Show the camera.
Show the camera the snack.
I'm not showing the camera the snack.
You didn't bring enough to share for the class, Ty. What the hell?
This is like total energy of like your dog's got something in his mouth, like, show me what you got. And Ty's like, I'm not going to show you. What do you have?
I'm not showing the snack.
Why? This dude was just pouring Old Bay seasoning in front of the
No, it
camera.
wasn't. It's just, it's almost empty. So it's like, it had to be.
Okay. Well,
okay.
Why aren't you showing the snack? What's wrong with the snack?
I don't want to show the snack. I just want to make picks.
Okay.
I really hope that Ty just has like
The
a full
snack is not
seafood feast,
this
like a
is
whole
totally
crab
insane.
boil.
Pull up a big old crab leg.
The snack is not yet prepared, so it's not showable. It'll be shown later when it's prepared.
Then what were you
all right.
dumping the Old Bay on?
Do you just have a
I
big
was-
old
I was
crock pot
seasoning it.
like
I
on
was
your desk?
seasoning it. No, the crock pot's under. It's actually under the island, though, man.
Okay. Anyways, Blake, who do you like in the ball game?
Yeah, this one's a little bit tough for me because, like Bobby, I do not want to go away from Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia seems to be in every good game. I'm saying good because it seems like Vanderbilt struggles against like these G5 opponents. But when it comes to these big time games, Vanderbilt shows up. They keep it close. They've done it against Texas. They beat Bama. They did it again on the road versus Auburn last week. But I was very impressed with what South Carolina did last week. Something that I was one of the only ones to call it on this pod, that Marcel Reed, once that rabbit was out of the hat, he was not going to be as effective.
That was a bad call on my end.
Just a complete good read right there. But South Carolina, they've just been primed. Even though they've had some disappointing results this year, they are primed for success. They have a great defensive line. They seem to be able to run the ball effective. Lenore Sellers is getting just better and better each game. This team, Beamer has them going in the right direction, which I did not think was going to be possible with this program, just because of how much to a disadvantage they have compared to most of the other SEC teams. I'm going to go with, I think Vanderbilt keeps this one close, but I was unimpressed by Vanderbilt's ability to move it against Auburn. I think Auburn has a decent defense, but it's not fantastic. They weren't able to get Pavia in the run, and South Carolina could just, they can really raise hell on that defensive line. I am going to go with the Gamecocks to win it. I think it'll be close for a while, but ultimately I just think they separate. Kind of similar to how South Carolina A&M was close, and then they just darted off with the game. I could see something similar happening here.
I actually completely forgot what I was going to say on this game. Also, my dog is going crazy, so sorry if she freaks out. But this game is going to be huge. I know this reference is going to miss on everyone, but it makes sense in my head. This game is going to be huge for people who drive white GMC SUVs. I don't I can't explain it. It's just got that vibe. So if you've ever been, I guess maybe it's a South Carolina thing. I don't know. But give me the Gamecocks in this one.
All right. I'm an island boy. Island boy with Vandy. I'm cool with that. All right, moving on to our next game. And honestly, I don't know why I put this on the slate. Maybe just due to the
I don't know,
sheer hilarity of all of it.
This is going to be a sweep, man.
This is a disgusting game. It's the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 3-6 overall and against the spread. Heading to Funky Town, take on the TCU Horned Frogs, 5-4, 2-7 against the spread after a I don't know. Would you call last week heartbreaking, Blake?
It was, but I felt like people had overreacted at the end of that game. Everything, the world is falling on TCU right now. It was a good game versus two vastly improved teams. Had both good quarterback play on both sides, and Baylor just happened to have the ball last, drove it down to get a field goal. The spread was 3 for a reason. It kind of happened, it had played out how it probably was supposed to, how Vegas planned it. So I wouldn't say it was disappointing, yes, but I think it was just two evenly matched teams at the end of the day. I didn't go away being TCU's in such a bad place because we lost to Baylor this year.
Fair enough. Yeah, game-winning field goals at McLean Stadium for the rivalry are kind of a running theme. But anyways,
the field rushing too. That's what needs to be discussed. They bum rushed that field, and the Baylor fans, the families that were in my section, I may have said a little too loud, "This is so embarrassing," and they all turned at me and gave me the biggest glares. That's so embarrassing.
That is pretty embarrassing.
I'm all for pro field rushing, but pro field rushing, when we both kind of had disappointing seasons, it's a 5-3 at that point TCU team, and you covered the spread. It just feels weird. It feels weird.
I don't know. I could find tape of Blake saying on this podcast just field rush for no reason. I don't know.
I used to be looser with my standards, but it had to be miraculous comeback level. Even if you were favored, you had to come back down from 21 type thing.
But still, it was an emotional game and a rivalry that was back and forth, and they won the game.
Yeah, but it really
wasn't that TCU team.
Okay, you're saying this because TCU lost. Had TCU rushed the field against the same Baylor team.
I would have been mad if we would have rushed the field against Baylor this year. I would have been pissed. This is not a good Baylor team.
Okay. Well, anyways, so TCU is favored by 10.5 against Oklahoma State at home.
My God, Carter. Just nobody's picking Oklahoma State. Can you put a hand
6
up?
6 p.m. Central FS1. Ty, who do you like?
No, I don't. I'm not crazy about it. It could happen at any moment that OSU just pops off. You cannot count them out. But right, I said it at the start of the season. I'm riding with TCU. Of course, the season that I decided to sort of become sympathetic to TCU and adopt them as my Big 12 team, they immediately just make the worst uniform decision they've made in forever and just go to terrible uniforms. But I will continue to ride with my Froggies in this one. OSU just an embarrassment at this point. And like we were talking about in our group text earlier in the week, Mike Gundy is just begging people to pay his buyout at this point. Kind of in the funniest way, though. I do support that. I do support just giving a press conference and saying, if you're my hater, it's because you're broke. So,
yeah, I'm probably going to go TCU just because I'm still going just Mike Gundy, the team is quit under him. Like they are done with him. The fact that he's coming out on in the media saying the people that hate me are broke and can't take care of themselves, can't take care of their families, like it's reached all-time low points in Stillwater. But like TCU hasn't been covering the spread. That defense is not good enough to really stop anything. It seems like the games are going to be close regardless, which kind of scares me a little bit. And OSU's defense, they've been horrendous against the run, but TCU can't run the ball. Like they're decent against the pass. I wouldn't say fantastic, but they're middle of the road, maybe slightly worse than middle of the road, but can defend the pass a little bit. So it does worry me slightly, but TCU's offense just continues to roll. Like that's been the highlight of this team. Although they have no defense, they can still move the ball very well, especially against an improved Baylor side. It seems like Hoover had kind of ice in his veins, being able to just go down there, march down there, tie the game right there at the end of it. I'm gonna lean TCU that maybe we finally see them blow out a team this year, but they've been playing a lot of close games. I could see OSU if they just kind of keep the ball in Ollie Gordon's hands, which TCU hasn't been able to defend. They can kind of just play the time of possession game and maybe keep this one close. But I'm just hoping there's enough of that quit right there that gets TCU over this 10.5.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And for Jameson's sake of trying to get the podcast over as quick as possible, I'm
No, it
going to
has
go.
nothing to do with that. I just think that this is just like, I think if you're going to pick Oklahoma State, be my guest, Bobby.
No, I'm not going to pick Oklahoma State.
I just didn't see any scenario.
Yeah.
I knew that you were not going to pick Oklahoma State on this pod. I know Blake's not going to pick against TCU. Ty is a newfound TCU fan.
Fair
so
enough.
I just know it's going to be a sweep.
Yeah, no, I get it. I do want to say Oklahoma State as a program right now in total disarray. Only thing they have going for them right now is the Turnpike Troubadours Cross Canadian Ragweed concert in April. But Gundy's completely lost all of his support with the fan base. The everybody is broke who disagrees with me comments is going to lose them season ticket holders. It's bad. The players are out. Clearly, the defense is in shambles. The offense doesn't know what it's doing, and Mike Gundy has zero interest. I don't know if it's interest or he just doesn't care. He doesn't care to fix the problem. It's over. Like it feels as over as it gets at OSU. If you're ever going to fire Gundy, now's really the time to do it. It's a disaster across the board. TCU's going to cover 10.5. Last week was an abysmal showing at Boone Pickens. I don't see any shred of optimism for this Oklahoma State side. Ty, you had your hand up. What would you need to say?
Yeah, for the record, I've been a lifelong TCU fan, at least since 2019-ish when I had Heim barbecue for the first time.
I haven't had Heim in a long time. I could go for some bacon burn-ins right now.
Bacon burn-ins, baby.
Great reason to be a fan of TCU. Jameson?
Yeah, it's TCU. I think that if TCU receives the opening kickoff and gets a touchdown, Oklahoma State just shuts down and just stops. Let me tell you something, Blake. I've been watching TCU closely the past couple weeks. You know what I really like? Wildcat with Savion Williams.
Yes. Oh my God. It's the only run play that works. He it uses his talents of he's a really good yards after catch guy, big frame, really has a lot of shiftiness for his size. It's fantastic to watch. It's
y'all been even running that on 3rd and long too.
Yeah.
It's been an automatic play. I think Oklahoma State's defense could even prepare for it, and their defense has been so pitiful. And we thought that their front seven, their linebacking core was going to be pretty good. My God, it's not. It is just not. I think that TCU could just run away with this, man, and just they'll just give up and just stop in the middle of the second quarter. The third quarter is going to look ugly.
I mean, even just look at some of the stuff from OSU last week. Kendall Daniels just half-assing it. They're done. That team doesn't care. That program's done. It's not good right now. Let's move on to our next game. It is the 4-4 Florida Gators, 5-3 against the spread, heading down to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns, who are 7-1 overall, 5-3 against the spread. UT favored by 21.5. This one, 11 a.m. Central on ABC. Jameson, who do you like in the ball game?
This is harder than you'd think. You'd want to pick Florida because of they kept it close at Georgia, even though it was a 14-point game, it was pretty much tied going down at the end. But who the hell is going to play quarterback? Do we have any word on that yet for Florida in terms of the health of their quarterbacks?
They haven't
They-
ruled out. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, hasn't ruled him out, but he was on crutches and had a leg brace on, so
But we got both of them. Like they had to play their third string. So like,
oh yeah, or God, Mertz is out for the season.
oh,
Right,
he's out
yeah,
for the
Mertz has
season.
been out for
Yeah,
the
Mertz
season.
has got like there. Yeah, like if Lagway doesn't play, it's the third stringer.
And he's in a brace, so he's done. So
Lagway, it's a hamstring issue.
oh, then he's I don't think he's playing.
I wouldn't think he's playing, and if
They
he did,
they put Lagway in a brace. Is that what you said,
The-
Blake?
I mean,
He left
At
on,
Georgia?
or that was I guess Sunday. He left on crutches and in a brace on his leg on Sunday.
Dude's in a brace with a hamstring. I don't like that. I don't know what the heck that
the
is.
team
That
doctors
doesn't
are
make any sense.
confused.
Oh, I don't know. I'm confused now. Whatever it is, that does not sound good to me. So I might pick Texas here. Honestly, I just the third string quarterback for Florida. That's concerning for me.
Yeah, this is a really tricky line for me. Aiden Warner, that third string we were talking about, he was 7 for 22 against Georgia, and had I believe a QBR of 9.5. So yeah, not exactly didn't do a very good job. Texas can make this Florida offense pretty one-dimensional. My thing is, I don't know if the Texas offense, they haven't been able to separate very well this season. I feel like it's just been sloppy. Gunnar Helm is leading you in receiving when the strength of this team was supposed to be the receiving core. It's something just off. I don't love 21.5, but like I would just I'll put it this way. If Florida covers this, I think you officially have to get a little bit concerned with what's going on at UT. That this is like, if you're a Texas fan, I think you got to start questioning whether or not you're actually a contender or not, because they just haven't been able to slam the door on any team with the pulse.
Isaiah Bond hasn't been healthy though, so that's been tough.
Right, but like you still have Ryan Wingo and
Like
some other
DeAndre DJ
guys.
Moore's been doing well.
yeah,
Like he's
he
been
was
kind
all
of
right.
coming on for them.
I mean, he was good.
I get where you're coming from, Bobby, but I mean, still, I'm not concerned about their receiving game.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It hasn't been as explosive as I feel like it's been made out to be from time to time. I still like Texas minus 21.5 because I could see this one being like 28-3, something like that.
Gross.
But yeah, I think this game has a chance to be close. I would stay away from the 21 because I don't think this Texas offense is.
If it went down to 19.5, I'm taking Texas actually with real money.
All right, Blake, who do you like?
Yeah, this puts me in a hard position because I just can't quit the Florida team, especially when they keep it close against Georgia, even with the backup quarterback get us the cover. Billy Napier was so close to saving his job if DJ Lagway would have stayed in. And to be the ultimate save the job guy, if you're uncertain about DJ Lagway playing, you do not play him this game. You give him a second to rest, then go out against LSU, Ole Miss, finish out with Florida State. You can potentially get some wins in the back half of that schedule. Could be bowl eligible depending on how fraudulent you think Mississippi, is. But I'm gonna go UT here. Like I never like the language from coaches when they say, "Oh, we're not gonna rule him out that he's not gonna play." That probably means he's not playing. That probably means that they think he could be somewhat of a game time decision, probably not leaning that way, and are ultimately just not going to go with them. I feel like it's smokescreen. Bobby's concerns about Texas being able to separate and stuff like that. They've been able to separate against bad teams with a bad quarterback before. Saw it once this year, so I think they could do it again this weekend. So give me Texas.
Yeah, well, first, this is kind of, we touched on this point a while ago, and I just didn't have a chance to jump in. But in the Florida team doctor's defense for the brace for the hamstring, they probably saw that OU has like 15 receivers out at this point with preseason hamstring injuries, and they're still out, and we're on week 11. So they probably thought that hamstring means something much more serious, like transfer portal. But I think this one is another one of those. Don't overthink it. If you really start to just sit on this one and look at the recency bias of Florida Georgia, which is a big rivalry game. I have not been necessarily sold on that game, but it is a big rivalry game, and it does have to be evaluated. That's a neutral site. It's not Red River level. I will never. You'll never catch me saying anything like that. But I just don't think that the right move on this one is to go against your initial instinct. And I think everyone's initial instinct is probably Texas 21 and a half. I don't like 21. I don't like the hook, but Texas definitely has that, especially against a third string quarterback, Florida. And that's what I'm going to go with. I think if you really stare at it, then you start to lose confidence and you're like, oh, the hook, the 21 and a half. I don't bet these games. I would say if I was to bet this game, I would probably wait till later in the week because we're recording on Tuesday. And I bet that hook might go away because I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at that and see some juice in there. And I think the line might shift a little bit. But for the purpose of this, go ahead and give me Texas minus 21 and a half. Not happy with it. Not happy with it whatsoever. But I'm confident that Texas could if they really tried.
All right, moving on to our next game. It's a surprisingly kind of relevant game in the college football playoff race in a weird way. Colorado is stormed back at 6-2 overall and against the spread. They're heading to Lubbock to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Colorado favored by 3.5 here. You can find this one 3 p.m. Central on Fox. Relevant mainly because of Colorado, who, if you look at the Big 12 standings, they could sneak into this thing. Anyways, Ty, go ahead. Who do you like between the Buffs and the Red Raiders?
This one's easy. I have long been a Colorado fan. Legitimately, I've watched their games. I've cheered for them. I've rooted for them on this podcast when they were putting up terrible, terrible seasons. Before Prime was even coaching at Jackson State, I was sticking with my Buffs at the bottom of the barrel of the pack. And it has been a roller coaster, to say the least, with Coach Prime coming in and everything else. There's certainly been a lot of attention on the program. And but I think that what they're doing right now is enough to beat Texas Tech by more than 4 points. Sorry, I talked a lot today. By more than 4 points. And I don't like Texas Tech. I don't like anything about them. I don't hate him, but I don't necessarily like Patrick Mahomes. I don't like that the NFL script screwed Baker last night and made him lose to Patrick Mahomes. It's atrocious. That made up that TikTok league or whatever you want to call it of the NFL is disgusting. It's making my stomach sick. But lost my train of thought. Give me the Buffs minus 3.5.
All hail Patrick Mahomes.
They really do hype that man up like none other. It's truly insane. He'll hit a wide open Travis Kelce that has no one within 10 yards, and they're like, look at that IQ, look at that awareness. It's like it was the dude that was open. They're just the Bucs defense isn't covering anyone. What are you talking about?
He benefits from a lot of revisionist histories and just not looking at the circumstances surrounding him. But for this game, Colorado's on the fast track to make the Big 12 championship. Like, if they can get past Tech, they're probably going. It's probably going to be BYU. It's probably going to be Colorado, considering Colorado just has Utah, Kansas, and OSU left on the slate. They are so dang close to actually doing this. It's super exciting, and I just want to ride the excitement wave. There's no way I really want to back Tech in another big slot. Was able to do it last week. That was another good read by me. I was kind of feeling myself in the Big 12 last week. Said that Texas Tech could definitely keep this one close. That offense is potent enough. Granted, their offense wasn't moving as good as we've seen in the past, but still was able to beat a very good Iowa State team. But I think they're going to be slumping a little bit coming into this one after a major win. Colorado off the rest. Very physical defense. I got to go with the Buffs. The Buffs are too much fun. I need to see Colorado in that championship game. So give me the Buffs. And also, just since they're not coming up on the slate, probably I had the best call about Houston, Kansas State. Bobby said I thought was going to choose that one. I said no. Houston's a little too live for me now. It seems like they've turned things around, and then they just like messed around and got the outright win to put Colorado in this position. So
Yeah,
props to Willie Fritz.
Willie Fritz knows how to beat K-State. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that dude's gonna be dangerous in a couple years at Houston. That's a really solid hire. I think Colorado wins on the road. Gets a cover. I know Lubbock's intense, but this Colorado team, they haven't had a ton of really legitimate road experience. You go to Nebraska on the road early, but they've kind of figured it out a bit. Granted, against Colorado State, UCF, and Arizona, I'm still not fully sold on Tech. After last week, I thought it was a good performance. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I'm feeling Colorado here. I think the momentum's real. I think the improvement's real, and I don't know. I like them to get it done. So Buffs -3.5 here.
Hey Blake, can you do me a favor? What quarterback ended up going out for Texas Tech last week?
It was Baron Morton.
It was Baron Morton, and that's a game changer right there. Give me Texas Tech. Baron Morton's back in the saddle. Give me the 3.5-point dogs at home to keep it close enough to get the cover.
There you go. Jameson, you've had good experience with on Texas Tech Island so far this season, so you got to be feeling pretty good. But
Jameson had a banner weekend for his Texas Tech quarterbacks between that and Tyler Shuck just absolutely slapping the crap out of Clemson. Like finally a team.
Shuck's kind of like a baller now in Louisville. Like he's kind of like he's not a joke anymore.
That's true.
That's
true.
He's actually pretty good. Granted, he's old. He's very old. He's 25.
He's still slinging it though.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next game. It's a big game at Death Valley in Baton Rouge. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide, 6-2 overall, 4-4 against the spread, heading on to take on the LSU Tigers, 6-2, 3-5 against the spread. Alabama, a 3-point favorite on the road. You can find this one 6:30 p.m. Central on ABC. Jameson, who do you like?
I will say this. I think this is really, really tough, but I think what's going to kind of push me over the edge is what I saw at the end of the Texas A&M game with LSU and the way that they could not guard a running quarterback for the life of them. Alabama, gets some time to kind of get in the lab coming off a bye week, and they can say, what did we see this LSU defense have complete ineptitude to do? And that's the QB run game. And how can we put Jalen Milroe, our best player, to succeed to do that? I thought LSU's defense had it. And like we said back like a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago, maybe is that just because they weren't ready for the Marcel Reed? But I just makes me worry about LSU, what I saw in that second half. It's hard for me to back them versus Alabama, even though Alabama, I feel like versus Missouri, should have won by 50 with how bad Drew Pine is. It's going to be a really tough one, but I'm going to go Alabama -3.
I mean, this is an unbelievably tricky spot. And I just got to say, Death Valley, Baton Rouge at night, there's something about it. I feel like this is very similar to that Ole Miss game a couple weeks back. And I think Ole Miss is a better team than LSU. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to winning time, the Tigers just find a way to figure it out. And I don't know. I could just see Milroe having a couple mistakes here and there, some disaster, and that flips the game. So I'm going to go LSU at home to cover the 3 points. This one feels more toss-uppy than it should. But, I'm going to go with the Tigers.
Yeah, this one's great because it's basically a playoff elimination game. I I pray. Like, after seeing the polls though, like I came into this tonight saying this is definitely a playoff elimination game. Now I'm a little bit worried that they're just dead set on getting 4 SEC teams in there, 4 Big Ten teams in there, and then just filling out the rest. With how I saw Bama even being ranked there, not putting like an SMU or really giving like some other team light to then have an LSU or an Alabama to come in late season. To have them ranked that high was just very perplexing to me. I understand the Georgia win. I understand how impressive that was, but really ever since then, this team has looked garbage besides Mizzou. And Mizzou has other issues, and we didn't talk about it in the actual rankings because really people probably don't care about the top 25 anymore. They just want to see the projected playoff. Mizzou is ranked. Mizzou is ranked in the new college football playoff rankings. That makes no sense. They have not won a single competitive game this entire year. And
we'll get to them.
In every game they've played against a good team, they've gotten slapped around.
We'll get to them.
It is ridiculous. But that besides that, I like Jameson's analysis with the Jalen Milroe. They need to really use him more in the running game if they're going to get through this season. He's not a gifted passer. They don't have, I don't think, a deep enough wide receiving core or a good running back stable to really carry this team. He's going to have to do it himself. They got to start designing more runs for him. But I'm also a little bit higher than Jameson on this LSU defense. I think a little bit of that A&M game is the surprise that you go from a Connor Wegman who's mobile himself, but is looking more to pass to they're only going to pass 2 times, run the read option every single play, and just really, really mess you up there. And also it's like that running game's working so well because of just the straight momentum that Garrett Nussmeier is shooting yourself in the foot every single time that man gets the ball. So it worries me with that going LSU +3 here, but Garrett Nussmeier, when he does play well, has some very high highs. I think this LSU defense is improving. I think the A&M game is obviously a black eye, but they definitely look a lot more well-rounded than they did last year. I'm going to go LSU here. I think just the home field advantage. Plus, you're giving me 3 points. I think that's a little too much for 2 teams that I think are both pretty flawed, but are probably pretty similar. Jalen Milroe is probably the better quarterback of the 2, but I just overall like LSU here in this matchup. So give me the +3.
34-33. That is Brian Kelly's record against all ranked teams, which in his defense, that includes some time at Central Michigan and some time at Cincinnati, a commuter school. But his time at Cincinnati was in fact his best percentage-wise against ranked opponents. This is at home, in Death Valley, at night. I don't know how they do it, LSU. They are magically able to be not good enough to be super, super relevant, but just good enough to get the perfect time slot for all their games. It truly is beautiful, and I must applaud that. Why did I bring up Brian Kelly's record? Because this is a battle between a coach who took over the greatest dynasty in modern sports, period. There is no other dynasty that was as successful as it was when it was taken over by a new person. Not in the NBA, not in the NFL. I don't know anything about hockey. I don't know anything about soccer, not in Formula One. And this man has taken over the greatest dynasty in modern sports and squandered it. He's taken a wonderful team and caused them to lose to Vanderbilt. It's abhorrent. I stand with you, Alabama fans. We will get through the Kalen DeBall not nowhere era together, and we will get back to our winning ways. With that being said, this is a don't overthink it. Unfortunately, Bama is the worst coach team. It's astonishing to say that when we're talking about Brian Kelly versus a big brand ranked opponent, but he is no longer at Notre Dame. I understand that I'm picking against LSU at home. I understand I'm picking against LSU at night. But I saw that LSU had to pull all of their Bayou voodoo magic that is beautiful when they bring it out in college football to beat an abhorrent Ole Miss team. And this Bama team is at least a little bit better than Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss. So go ahead and give me Bama Unfortunately, I think they win this one. I say unfortunately because this is going to extend the ball not knower's tenure. But when they lose to OU here in a few weeks, that will certainly be a black mark on his record that we will hold against him.
Oh my God. I really hope you actually say it. You got to pick it. You got to keep on saying it.
No, I did. I picked. Give me Bama. Give me Bama.
I know, but
That's
what
easy.
if we have OU Alabama week in 2 weeks?
OU has it in them. It's terrible to me because I know that certain people are going to spin it as a reason to retain probably the worst coach in FBS football right now, a man who has a record against ranked opponents equal to Schiano. That's a fact. You can look that up. Venables and Schiano, same record against ranked opponents. It's atrocious, but that's for a different time. Give me Bama -3.
All right. So Jameson, or no, it's a split decision on Alabama and LSU. Moving on to our next one. It's a Big 12 battle that is really one of the more underrated rivalries in college football, but this game is a little bit gross. It's the 8-0 BYU Cougars, 7-1 against the spread, heading to Rice-Eccles Stadium to take on their in-state rival, the Utah Utes, who are 4-4, 2-6 against the spread, and are in absolute free fall. Despite that, BYU only a 3.5-point favorite on the road. This is a 9:15 p.m. Central start on ESPN. Ty, who do you like?
I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it. It's Utah. Give me Utah. BYU. I have long been a supporter of BYU, right? BYU punches well above their weight within football and within the profession. I can do a whole 45-minute podcast on BYU's ability to punch above its weight academically and in placing people in crazy jobs for where they sit. Like they punch, like Blake's nodding because he knows where Blake's at right now is that like there's a BYU mafia there, and it's crazy what they can do. But Vegas knows something. Vegas was created by the Mormons. There's a whole history there. Vegas knows something. Putting this at -3.5. I know Blake doesn't like this. I know he feuds with Utah. Apparently, Utah has like a Twitter or an X account that is like their fan account called the Pig Bus. Very confusing to me. I had heard about it. I thought it was an Arkansas thing for like 3 years. I don't know what that has to do with Utah. Arkansas should sue them for the rights to the Pig Bus account because that makes so much more sense. But go ahead and give me Utah. I don't know anything about either of these teams. This is a vibe pick right here. Give me the Utes +3.5.
I'll go with the vibes too, but I'm riding the high. BYU still just continues to be the most disrespected team in college football. It's coming from the polls. It's coming from the Vegas. It's coming from everywhere. And I don't understand why. Like, this team actually plays relatively sound football. They can throw the ball. The offense can hum. They can run the ball really well. Retzloff has come out of nowhere. He has all the mojo. He has all the vibes behind him. Then their defense, honestly, has been decent. Like, it's not going to be great. It's like their offense is the start of the show, but you're talking about this Utah team. This Utah team stinks. They're going to send Kyle Whittingham into retirement this year, I think. Like, it's going to be that bad this year that I don't think he wants to go through this rebuild through this conference because it's just going to be too hard. It's going to beat him down even longer. He already put in the succession plan a year or two ago. He already has 1 foot out the door, so I cannot wait for BYU just to deal this final death blow to him. This has been great. I'm like, my team has kind of sucked this year, which has been hard and trying to evaluate the future, but it makes me even more happy that Utah, who is probably, besides UCF, of conference new joiners coming in saying they're immediately going to run the conference, end up straight at the bottom. UCF's the same way. Utah, the biggest talkers, the biggest ones that weren't trying to get anywhere besides the Big 12, want to go to the Big 10. Look where you are now. You're truly at the bottom. So have fun, Utah.
I thought you were going to say OU there for a second. Like,
okay, so yeah, no, Blake, I'm with you though. I do not understand this line. I don't get it. Utah, it's like Vegas isn't watching the Utah games? I know they aren't, or I know they are, but it's just bizarre. Like I get that they've been good in the past, but they're a wounded dog, and BYU is out for blood. This is a just a don't let the Mormons, the niceties fool you. This is a heated rivalry, and they're going to be looking to just knock Utah's block off after the amount of smack they talked. I think not only that, but with the CFP, where they landed on the CFP and everything, potentially not even, having Boise that close, they're like, they not getting an automatic bye would be a bit of a slap in the face. So I imagine BYU's out here looking to run the score up. I think they win this. I think they cover it handily. So give me BYU minus 3.5. I do not have any faith in this this Utah team whatsoever.
Yeah. I applaud you, Ty, for going on the island of Utah. I ain't gonna be with you. BYU, man. You said that like this line looks weird. We look at it like, what the heck? This should be 6.5, 7.5. Why is it?
It should be 14.
It doesn't make any sense. Sometimes you get spooked with lines that don't make sense. I don't know what it is in Vegas algorithm, but we said this exact same thing last week with UCF, and they handled them. They handled them easily. So continue to disrespect BYU. I'm going to continue to pick them. They're 7-1 against the spread. I don't know what's going on in this Vegas algorithm that's saying that they need to keep on disrespecting this BYU team.
All right, there we go. Ties on an island with the Utes. Moving on to our second to last game, we've got the Georgia Bulldogs 7-1 overall, 2-6 against the spread, heading to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels, who are 7-2, 6-3 against the spread. This is a Titanic one in the SEC. Georgia favored by 2.5 on the road. You can find this one at 2:30 p.m. Central on ABC. Jameson, who do you like?
I was ready to pick Ole Miss this whole season in this game. I think I said in the SEC preview. And Georgia has continued to look poorly, which has made this line lower in some of their games. But there's one thing that just is sticking inside that I can't get by is, does Georgia has shown up in this big game versus Texas? Is it just going to be like that versus Ole Miss, and they just decided to play around with Florida and not really show up as much? It's a rivalry game, though. Why wouldn't they go out and just blow out Florida? This internal cognitive dissonance that I have with this Georgia football team, what they really are, I still haven't set down on it yet. I think Georgia just comes out and shows out, though. I think it'll be a fun, good game. And if they just don't turn the ball over, I think that they can, or if they don't turn the ball over at the rate that they've been doing, I think that they can handle Ole Miss. Ole Miss's defense gave up a good amount of points to Arkansas, despite, the big blowout. I think Georgia's offense will be able to score points and put Ole Miss in some difficult positions. It's going to be a fun game. I'm torn on what I think about this Georgia football team, but I think I'm going to back them.
For me, it comes down to this. I think it's this simple. Georgia wins big games. Mississippi doesn't. That's just kind of what it is. That's just how it is. And to me, I think just with how opposite these two head coaches are, Kirby Smart's going to want to show up and punch Lane Kiffin and the Rebels in the mouth. And I think Georgia wins this one pretty handily. I don't know. I think Ole Miss just doesn't have it to win the games like this. You can beat up on the Arkansas and, your non-cons all the live long day. But when it comes to the big ones, they just don't have that edge. So Georgia minus 2.5 to play.
I love Bobby's analysis. I've been a Ole Miss hater this entire year. I think they're a fraudulent team. I don't care what they did last week against Arkansas. Taylor Green still a little bit banged up. I feel bad. I wish the Pitties could have pulled that one out. But the only thing that has me worried is the Cavender twins curse. It seems to be affecting two teams across America, and it's affecting the Georgia Bulldogs with Carson Beck and the Dallas Cowboys. Granted, the Cowboys might be be some other issues, but their downfall is something I love to see. They screwed TCU women's basketball by committing to us and then immediately transferring before playing a game. I love to see this downfall. There's two teams in America that I do not want to see lose more than both of these, so this one makes it really hard that I actually have to choose a winner in this. But I am going to go with the Bulldogs. I think they're just going to show up. Kirby Smart actually can coach in big games. Lane Kiffin can't. Lane Kiffin is a merchant at Ole Miss that takes advantage of these like slightly worse teams, can run up the score on them, can't show up in the big moments. I don't care. I guess Carson Beck's probably going to like throw 2 or 3 interceptions, keep him close. But we've seen like he's been able to make mistakes, and Georgia's still been able to rout teams like Texas. So the formula is there for even a blowout, even with the Carson Beck mistakes. I just think Georgia's way more talented. I think they're way better coach. I just think they're more fit for these moments. The problem is I feel like Ole Miss is still going to somehow make the playoff, and it's going to really frustrate me. They have no reason being there. I feel like just like the 3 losses is just not going to disqualify them for some weird reason, or they're just going to stick around. But yeah.
They wouldn't have enough wins. They wouldn't have any good wins. They need to win this one.
See, that's the thing. But that's the thing I just don't get about this playoff committee. It's just the just looking at what they've formulated. They don't think about the wins. It's like the wins are non-existent. It's just like if you're an SEC team with a winning record, you seem to be getting just some insane bias this year. This insane bump, even though you've played absolutely nobody in your conference.
Fair enough.
And this is just a little mini rant. I miss divisions. This year has made me miss divisions so much. It feels like every good team in every single conference is just skirting all the other good teams. It's like the ACC, like the top people in the ACC are not probably going to play till the end. Like, thank God we got SMU Pitt. Like, it wasn't a good game, but it's just like Clemson and Miami and all these teams aren't playing. In the Big Ten, the same way. It seems like they'll give you one matchup, but they just kind of all skirt around these matchups. I just kind of wish we went back to divisions. And I know, like, if a section of teams are good that year, then I actually get to see some bangers of games.
You could always trim the fat and make a Super League, Blake.
No, God, no. God, no.
Ty, who do you like in this game?
This is a classic case of this is unbelievably easy, and Vegas is just tossing you a layup at the end of the season. What this is they understand that as winter sets in and as we get into the holiday season and everything else, people really get settled into sports, and there's a lot of casuals for college football that maybe pay attention to the NFL and everything else, and they start to pay attention to college football once you get towards the end of the season. You get those consequential games. You see it in every sport, right? Like I'll admit right now, the Thunder's good now, so I've started to watch those games, but traditionally that's how I've been with the Thunder. That's how, people are with other sports that they don't necessarily always watch. You tune in when it gets juicy at the end. And when you start to get a little bit more free time, you start to spend a little bit more time in your house, unless you live in a gorgeous place like I do, and you can enjoy, 365 livable weather. Not livable in the summer, but I'm going off on a wild tangent here. Vegas has set this line at 2.5 so that casuals come in, they pay attention to the little commercials and everything else, and they sign up for whatever betting site, and then they say, oh, I know Georgia, I know Ole Miss. Georgia's been winning all the championships. Let me go ahead and bet Georgia. I don't want to bet too much, though. I'm going to put $50. I'm going to put $100 in the app, and they put it all on Georgia. And they win. They get like nothing. Like you get like a $10 return on $100 or something. We don't have the data up here for that. And then you ride that win, and then you start to bet the random stuff, and that's where they make their money. This is literally set. This is like an introductory, like one free win on the house is what this one is. They know the casuals are going to tune into ABC 2:30. Amazing time slot. And they're going to bet on Georgia, and Georgia's going to win. They're going to cash, and they're going to say, oh, let me put more money in this and let me invest in this betting program. Give me the dogs, the Georgia Bulldogs, not the dogs. Give me the Georgia Bulldogs minus 2.5. So unbelievably easy. I understand, right? Blake is right about this Ole Miss team. You cannot bet too much. Like you cannot believe this hype merchant that is coaching them. He does the same playbook year after year. Everyone forgets. They punch above their weight in recruiting. That is very impressive. But you can't believe this hype year after year. Georgia has taken a step back for sure, but not compared to this year's Ole Miss. Give me the Bulldogs minus 2.5.
All right, moving on to our next game. It is the last one on our slate. It's the Oklahoma Sooners, 5-4 overall and against the spread, heading to an old Big 8, Big 12 foe in the Missouri Tigers. 6-2, 4-4 against the spread. No Sooner Tiger peace pipe will be exchanged at the end of this one.
Boo.
I know, I agree. This one's line has been interesting. Missouri opened as about a 2.5, 3-point favorite, and it's flipped. Oklahoma, yes, the OU Sooners are a 2.5-point road favorite against Mizzou. You can find this one 6:45 p.m. Central on the SEC network. Ty, kick us off. I know you've traditionally had a lot of harsh takes towards Missouri, so I'm intrigued. I've been waiting for this pick for months, I think.
Mizzou plus 2.5. I will not be elaborating.
Oh,
I don't look. I hate Mizzou. I'm going to elaborate. I don't like Mizzou. That's for sure. There's just something is off about them. It's this Tiger. It really is. It really does come down to branding. This is going to sound like a bit. It comes down to branding. It's not the color palette itself. It's just there's something about the Tiger, like the style of it. I don't know what it is. It's too high school. It's too high school to be taken seriously. And then now that I think about it, I think, what was it, like 2010 when they beat us? It was like their homecoming and they ran back like the opening kick or something like that. We were like number 1 in the nation at the time. That was tough. That was a rough day. That next Monday for me, because I didn't live in Oklahoma. I was the only OU fan at my school, and no one believed in OU. And we then, as soon as we got some hype, we lost to Mizzou, and that's just going to being an OU fan in the SEC back in the day was you got, you know, it was tough. It was tough when we dropped those games. The 2013 Sugar Bowl, greatest moment ever. That can never be topped thanks to that. But yeah, I don't like Mizzou, but what I don't like more than Mizzou is someone's incompetence turning OU from a blue blood into Nebraska. So go ahead and give me Mizzou plus 2.5. They're not good, but OU is not good whatsoever. It's like we looked good against Maine for 3 quarters. We didn't look good against Maine for the first quarter, and that's like skewed everyone's opinion. I don't know what's going on with this line, honestly. Actually, I just remembered I had this whole bit about there's this like thing that I think is hilarious, and it's called the Joe Man amnesia effect. And in short, it's like you read a newspaper. Say you're a doctor, and you open up a newspaper, and the first article that you read is about medicine. And it's the worst article. It's factually incorrect. Everything is wrong. You're like, oh, this is the worst article I've ever read. You turn to the next page of the newspaper and there's an article about economics. You don't know anything about economics because you're a doctor. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that's going on. This is like, I need to look into this more. That's exactly what's happening here with Vegas. I knew that there was something fishy with that BYU Utah line. And because I didn't have like an emotional attachment or knowledge, I was like, oh, like this is just blah, 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 or the Ole Miss one, right? Like this is free money. And then I see one that I have knowledge on and that's this OU team. And I'm like, there's something wrong here. I don't know. I'm not sure if I explained that super well, but I'm sure Bobby will put a link in the bio to explain.
But of course. Well, I appreciate you not elaborating, Ty. Blake, who do you like?
That was such a jab.
You looked at me like you wanted me to elaborate.
It's fine. We have fun here, folks. We have fun here.
We'll just do the podcast where we just don't talk.
No, it's fine. I want somewhere in between.
Bobby, I know, is very disappointed because he was expecting Ty to go on this like Mizzou rant that ultimately ends up him backing OU, but he just ends up stabbing OU in the back even more than he does Mizzou. But this one's easy for me. It really is. It's OU. Boomer Blake's coming back out this week. Jameson corrected me a few weeks ago when I tried to say that Drew Pine was just basically the same thing as Brady Cook. That could probably not be farther from the truth. Brady Cook sucks, but Drew Pine is
Dude,
worse.
thank
Like,
you. Thank you.
It is
God.
significantly worse. And looking up Brady Cook's injury status, Drinkowitz is he's doing Billy Napier, but even more goofy. He's like, I don't know, the competitive balance of the SEC mandates that we need to put him on these reports. So you're gonna have to wait till Wednesday night to like do it. Like he's been trying to come back. He's just such a goofball. This is just such a goofy school that like happened to have a good season last year. That momentum has carried over to a nice looking record on paper. But if you have watched this team, they look dreadful. They have all the weapons in the world and they can't seem to move the ball. They lost their coordinator to a in conference, not rival per se, but in conference team, which is embarrassing. And the defenses look crap. So OU, I will say, has not looked the best. They did not look good against Maine in that first quarter when I was following along, but ultimately separated. But maybe that was good for them. They got a little confidence under the belt. They saw the ball moving again. I don't know. I just feel like Jackson Arnold is the more talented of whatever quarterback pair that Mizzou is going to bring out. So I've hoped that this defense can clamp them down. The offense can try to find something and just hopefully rely on talent alone and just kind of the hatred between these two programs to fuel it. But yeah, I'm going to go OU -2.5. It could be a trap. It could definitely be a trap, but would love to see OU become bowl eligible off of Mizzou's downfall.
So this line movement reminds me of a similar line that moved quite a bit earlier this season with Utah and Oklahoma State.
Exactly.
And
I was going to say, Bobby.
This, I believe in those tea leaves. Blake fought Utah and the entire pig bus over it for a while. And, he's right. And I think this is a clear sign. Brady Cook's out. Nate Noel has had their leading Missouri's leading rusher has had a foot injury. He's been dealing with issues as well. And if you want to do the flip side on the OU end, and yeah, I get it. We've heard the song and dance before. Jackson Arnold did say after practice that he feels like both of them are coming, both Jalil Farouk and Deion Burks are coming back and will be available. We'll see if that's true or not. But Vegas, look, if Vegas believes that, I think this Missouri team, one, is not a very good team in general, but especially when you take away Cook and, Noel, make them a little one-dimensional. They haven't been able to get, the ball into the hands of Luther Burden or, Theo Weiss has had some action, but not anything too remarkable. I think this Missouri team is a lot worse than people kind of think. I get Oklahoma is Oklahoma, but I feel like they're on an upward trajectory. They desperately need this one to potentially make a bowl game. And this is the most winnable one of the three. I just have a feeling that the offense has figured out enough to get this thing done. If the Sooners can avoid completely collapsing, that's going to be the difference is turnovers. Missouri's defense has been just kind of solid, but the thing they do is turn the ball over. So if Jackson Arnold and that OU offense can just play a steady game, avoid getting sacked too much, I think the OU defense is enough to make Drew Pine's life a living hell. And I like OU. On the road, 2.5. That might be a little crazy, but I don't know. I just feel like this is a game that OU has to have, and frankly, Brent Venables desperately has to have if he wants to continue to be the head coach at OU. Because I'm not saying we'll get fired after this, but your odds of making a bowl dip significantly. So I'm going to go with the Sooners by 2.5 and a gotta have it game.
Yeah, Bobby, I was going to make the exact same point about Vegas' massive shift in regards to probably a key injury thing that we don't know yet. They know something we don't. And Blake, thank you for the shout out. Drew Pine, we're saying like, oh, if they don't have Brady Cook, that's going to hurt Missouri. It's not the fact that you're losing Brady Cook. It's the fact that you're gaining Drew Pine. Like, that is a very, very bad negative right there. Dude threw for 42 yards and 3 picks versus Alabama. They put up 0 points whenever he was playing in the game during that Auburn game. It was also pitiful. We have a decent enough sample size to see that Drew Pine ain't it. And Oklahoma's defense should be legit enough to where they're going to give Drew Pine more fits. And I was going to pick Missouri this whole week because I was like, there's no way we're going to really see Drew behind in this game. They're not going to bring out Drew Pine. They still might. Who knows? It's Tuesday as we're recording this. But there's just too many signs right now that point to Brady Cook's not going to play, and that is such a big deal. That is a really, really big deal. With OU establishing their run game, still having a good defense, and Missouri's offense being inept with Drew Pine at the helm, I think Oklahoma can win this by 3. So give me Oklahoma to become bowl eligible.
There we go. All right. Let's move on to our favorite pick of the
Why
week.
aren't the brakes working? Because I cut the brakes! Wild card, bitches!
All right, it's time for the wild card pick, where we get to pick our favorite games from outside of the slate. Jameson, since you are in last place, you get to kick us off here. Who do you like?
Ty, I'm kind of hungry. You know why I'm hungry? I'm thinking
Because you saw me eating this delicious Old Bay.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor of the podcast. I just love them.
I'm telling you, Ty, there's just something about some Old Bay seasoning where I could just go for some DMV type meals, get some crab, put on some Old Bay, and just absolutely roast a team like Maryland. Is that what you were thinking of, Ty? Is that why you were preparing your meal?
That's right. I was not mute. My dog barked when you said Maryland.
Oh, Penny's mad at me because she's realizing what I'm doing here. Oregon is hosting Maryland and is a minus 25-point favorite. And Ty might have been preparing earlier in the pod of how he was going to pick his beloved Duckies.
Nope. I got something nasty. Cooked up. Just you wait.
And I hope he does have something nasty because I need some of that Old Bay seasoning to put on these terrapins because we're picking the Oregon Ducks. This is a classic Ty pick. Give me Oregon minus 25 to cover the spread versus Maryland.
I'm not sure if this is picking up on the mic.
I actually really like that.
I'm shaking the Old Bay for those listening if it's not picking up.
I do really like that. Teams on these cross-country trips always just kind of underperform.
And Maryland hasn't really looked
Maryland's
that
bad.
good. They beat USC weirdly enough, but for the rest of the year, like the times I've actually watched Maryland on one of my few TVs that I have out, and it's been bad stuff. Like I'm pretty sure we were together watching a little bit of the Maryland Northwestern game, and Maryland at home got demolished by Northwestern. And I hate Northwestern with the flying passion. That team is bad. Bad. They lost by 27 to them. I'm fading Maryland so hard.
Fair deal.
Can I just say real quick, for the record, Maryland's mascot, the terrapin, is a turtle. Jameson is talking about cooking and eating turtles, which is potentially a Mike Gundy reference.
That's funny. Okay, I'm going to go. Look, Blake, college basketball season started on Monday, right?
It did.
And when I think there's a game that I immediately thought of when I was looking through the college football ranks, and I like the vibes. You and I both know, as fans of the Big 12 Conference in basketball, you love to see Iowa State and Kansas City. Cyclones in football playing at Arrowhead against Kansas, favored by just 3. Look, this Kansas team has not been very good. They've been in a spiral. Iowa State, bad week last week, but I think they bounce back, get a big cover against KU. So give me Iowa State -3 is my pick.
Second favorite pick of the week there, Bobby.
I don't know that those short lines in the Big 12 are starting to spook me off after the last few weeks. Some of these teams, like Kansas, is just not. They're like similar to Houston, like probably not the best, but they're just not dead. They're kind of they're goodly coached. They're good but bad at the same time. Like they have the potential to do great. They just don't win. So it scares me off, but I do get where Bobby is coming from. I'm going back to a well I went to this year that burned me the first time. But it has to work. It has to work. One team with all the juice in the world going into a spot where I think the worst coach currently in college football is coaching in this game, and that is the UConn UAB game. Trent Dilfer is by far the worst coach in college football. It is not even close. He is so bad. He took a program that actually organically built something good in the G5 that was consistently punching above their weight and had a coach retire because their administration was treating him bad, to then have the interim in that building be a good coach and they not hire him. They go for the superstar hire of some D-list ESPN talent, bummy quarterback in the NFL, Trent Dilfer, who only had coached in high school in a private school league in Nashville and hasn't been able to do jack with this team. Jim Mora and those UConn Huskies, they're rolling. They beat Georgia State last week. I watched that game, qualified for a bowl. He's done this twice with this team. Like, he's gotten them up that even as an independent, they've been able to field a competitive team to get to 6 wins. It's only a line of 6.5 here, so you get that if you just win by a touchdown, you're good. The time I got burnt earlier this year was I bet 13.5 with USF. I've now learned that USF, even after last week with that FAU win, they're kind of a trash team. Golish he was a hyped up coach because of what he was doing last year, but ultimately I've not been impressed with the sophomore campaign, but I have been impressed what Mora and UConn has done this year. They're going to put Trent Dilfer in a coffin. We really had kind of last week the two of the sucky, or Trent Dilfer being the worst, and then another sucky coach, whoever Tulsa hired. Tulsa's head coach stinks too. Like, I know that program doesn't expect much, but he's bad, like bad. So this is just, yeah, he's stinky. So I gotta capitalize on this at least once.
Blake, I have to ask, if Tulsa's coach is bad, is there a competent head football coach in the state of Oklahoma at the college level?
Probably not right now. Like, it's sad whenever you go. I saw like somebody did a power rankings of Oklahoma football right now, and UCO was at the top.
Baby, UCO kicking ass.
So that's kind of where we are. And I saw like Southern Nazarene, I think, like pulled off some like big.
They were
winless
and beat an 8-0 team, which was wild.
I believe some like the Massey Index gave like put a line at like -34, like for I don't know how to pronounce the team's name. It's like Ouachita or something. I don't know.
Washita.
It's probably Washita.
Yeah, I would say currently right now the best team does not reside in D1 football.
Yeesh. Ty, who do you like?
Ty, can I want to give you a little bit of information before you move forward, because I know I feel bad. I feel bad for probably taking your pick.
You didn't. I promise you didn't. You know me. I'll explain it.
But I want to give you some information.
You're not
I don't
allowed
know
to explain now, Ty.
If you've been
he's trying to talk me down from picking Boko here.
Have you seen what Bitcoin has done today? Bitcoin is massive up. Massive up.
Jameson has his pulse. Jameson has my pulse here because he's hinting at my backup game in case someone for some reason picked my primary. My backup was in fact Miami against the ultimate underdog spoiling Georgia Tech. But I am smarter than that, and my primary is much nastier. My primary. Let's just explicitly look at the context here. We're in week 11. And I'm about to pick a Power 5 versus Power 5 matchup that has a spread of almost 40 points. That's beautiful. I love that, especially when it's a team that's potentially not coached by someone that knows what they're doing, but they're at least not sinking the ship super quickly. And that is, of course, the Tree Nuts, coached by Ryan Day of Ohio State, facing the I don't actually know who their coach is, and I know that they're just kind of welders with an additional certification, or potentially it's just a job role. I don't know. I apologize, welders. I don't know how your world works. The Boilermakers, I know it's a component of trains. The component of train makers at Purdue. That is a 38-point spread. Can Ohio State do it? Of course they can. Will they do it? That's an absurd line to cover in week 11 when you are a very serious playoff contender. That is so unbelievably nasty. I love it. I love Ohio State minus 38. I love, when in doubt, picking just the biggest line that I can find. And if I can find Ohio State minus 38 against an in-conference opponent in week 11, that is beautiful. For context, Oregon, who beat this Ohio State team, beat Purdue 35-0. That's off the dome, so I don't know if that's correct or not. But it's an absurd line. It's an absolutely absurd line. It's probably going to go down just because it's so ridiculously big. It is at Ohio State, but just give me that stanky line, because I'm 7-4 right now on the wild card. I'm leading the wild card standings in addition to the main standings. And what I need more than anything is to achieve a perfect 500 for this year, because I've done it for the past 2 years, and achieving perfect 500 for 3 years straight would be, I think, maybe the most impressive thing that's ever been done on the Schooner Pod. So go ahead and give me Ohio State minus 38 against Purdue. It's got to be an 11 a.m. I don't even know when this game kicks off. It's got to be.
It's big noon. It has to be big noon.
How is that big noon? Purdue is 1-7. Okay,
because Fox likes Ohio State.
Yeah, we'll do a whole other pod about the Fox Ohio State bias.
Right. Yeah. They love the numbies. That's why.
Show us your snack. Show us your snack, Ty.
Snack reveal.
It's
how?
been consumed.
Oh, you're doing it out of a cup? Was it chili?
It was a michelada. I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you guys know about that. I don't know if the viewers know about those.
Yep.
With some Old Bay.
That's a good touch.
I'll send you a recipe.
Nice, good deal. All right. Well, that is all we have for week 11. Next up, we've got. I don't want to say it's a good slate, because it's kind of not for week 12, which is a bummer, because I'm going to be in Vegas for this one. But then again, Blake, as much as we all know the sleepy slates sometimes are the best. So got Texas at Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia should be interesting. I don't know. We're gonna have to do some soul searching on some of these.
When Texas and Arkansas is the first one you drop.
San
Diego City. I saw it's on here. Bobby bringing back the hits.
Yeah, well, hey, look, I'm going to be in Vegas for that one, and there's a non-zero chance that I somehow wander into Allegiant Stadium. Got to catch Ricky White, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But we're going to work on this slate over the week. As might need a little TLC. But all right, well, thank you all so much for listening and watching. If you like the show, give us a like on YouTube, subscribe. And hope to see you for week 12. Have a good one, everybody, and good luck out there.